I had an epiphany that I want to share on the show. I hate my commute downtown to school, and I've hated it for a while now. And now that I'm about to graduate, I'm looking for other jobs and I'm thinking of different things that I want to do. And I have certain things that feel like it's a dream to me to work at specific companies. And I find myself literally sitting here being like, oh, but that commute is so far. And honestly, it's not that far compared to what I'm commuting now. I commute like a bit over an hour to get to school every day, and the places I'm interested in working at, some of them are in downtown Toronto, and I live outside. No, I live technically in Toronto, but I'm kind of as west as you can go on the subway line, plus a bus, so it's like a whole mission to get downtown. But it has been literally preventing me from exploring the idea of these jobs that are a bit further. And it's so fucking weird because I finally just had this epiphany that, like, okay, people commute for jobs, people commute for school, people commute all the freaking time. Why are you prioritizing not commuting over working at a dream place that can help progress you in your career and get you to places you want to go? Like, I don't know. I just think I'm really struggling in this time in my life with prioritizing where I want to go, what I want to do with my life. I'm struggling to prioritize, like, even when I have like schoolwork versus podcast work versus applying to job work, like I'm just like, which one do I do first? I don't know. And so I just fucking finally realized that I am prioritizing distance of a job versus like enjoyment and fulfillment and help pushing me towards my dreams kind of job. And this is all dependent on the person. I remember I worked at a pharmacy for like 5 years, and it was a 3-minute walk from my house. And one time this guy started working at the job, and he was like, oh yeah, I will only work at jobs that are like within 10 minutes of my house. And so I'm like, okay, that's one of his priorities. But for me, I keep daydreaming about one specific place that I think would be cool to work at, that I'm like, I've never explored this type of space and wellness, that it would be cool to get an inside look at it and work at it. But then I kept being like, oh, but it's so far from my house. And I say this because I hate commuting so much. And it wasn't always like this though. So I lived in downtown Toronto a year ago, and it literally only lasted 3 or 4 months because I hated living in the city. My living situation wasn't great. I thought I was going to thrive in the city. I realized I'm more of a calm living environment kind of girl. I also just need nature. And this is a realization I had last night when I was at this really cool pop-up sauna event right at the lakeshore. I laid in a hammock and looked up at the city and was like, this is fucking stunning. I could see myself living here because I'm walking distance to the lake. Granted, things are really expensive, but that's just life. But I'm like, oh, if I were to dream big, maybe I could see myself living in the city in the heart of Toronto, but it needed to be close to nature. And for me, that's like what I needed. I wanted to be like a safe place because where I was living before wasn't a very safe environment. I didn't feel comfortable walking down the street. And I realized if I was living close to the lake, I would probably enjoy it more than I would how I did before. Anyway, I just went on a whole mental track about that. I don't know what the point of it was, but I'm sure we'll get around to it. But I realized that, like, I was kind of prioritizing, I think, the wrong thing, because eventually you can, if you work at a place and it's like the best job ever, you can eventually move closer to that job. But for right now, I live with my parents. I'm not sure if I want to move out and like move out for a job. I don't know if it'll be fun or if it'll be like something I like. And so why not commute? Oh, this is what I was going to say. So last year when I lived in Toronto and I hated it, after 3 months, I decided to move home, and it was a really hard decision, but I felt so much safer at home. I felt so much more comfortable with my parents. And so I decided to move home. And welcome to my ADHD, like me literally starting a story and not figuring out how to finish it and then coming back to it and then me doing this. But I moved home and started commuting. And the reason I moved downtown in the first place is because, like, I go to Toronto Metropolitan University, formerly known as Ryerson, TMU, blah, blah, blah. I go to a school in the heart of downtown Toronto. So I was like, oh, if I live in Toronto, I don't have to commute. I'm really close to school. I loved the city when I lived there when I was like 18. Let's do it. And I hated it. And I was scared to commute because, like, my brother was a commuter for 4 years. I commuted a lot in high school. I lived only like a 15-minute drive. My high school was only like a 15-minute drive from my house, but the commute was like an hour, which like kind of makes no sense, but it's because you had to take a bus to get to the subway, and then you take 2 subway stops, and then you take another bus. So it would range between like 30 minutes to an hour because you have to wait for buses and stuff. And so I have just commuted quite a bit already in my life. So I was like, if I could avoid commuting, that would be great. But I didn't. And I've been commuting for my entire 4th year of university. And at the beginning, I really enjoyed my commute. I didn't mind my commute at all. I was more just commuting for work because it was in the summer, and I felt really at peace. And I think I really, really enjoyed commuting during those early couple months because I had just moved home and I loved living at home. I finally felt safe where I was living. I felt comfortable. I felt like it was right for me. And when you go from such a drastic change, there's so much novelty in the beginning of living somewhere that's so like comforting. That's a little bit worn off now, obviously, because I've been here for a while, but I didn't hate commuting during those couple months. I was content. And so now when I think about if I were to get a job downtown and commute to it, I might feel differently than I do right now. I was assuming if I was commuting, a similar distance to the distance I am now to a job, I would fucking hate it because I fucking hate it right now. But then I sat back and I was like, I don't like school right now. I haven't liked school for the majority of my university career because university to me was so freaking different than what I thought it was going to be. And so no shit, you hate your commute when you also hate where you're commuting to. How are you going to enjoy your commute if you don't even want to get to the end destination of the reason you're on such a long commute? And so then I sat with myself and I was like, wait. Why am I prioritizing a job that is 5 minutes from my parents' house when I also know in my core I'm not going to be living in my parents' house forever? Like, maybe a couple more years, but like max, hopefully. Who knows? I mean, the economy, the job market, it's all expensive. But if I am looking for a job that could take me to that next step in my career and what I'm really interested in, that can come at the cost of a 45-minute commute. And, maybe I might drive downtown sometimes. Maybe I won't. Maybe I'll subway, whatever. But the fact that I was prioritizing a short commute over my dream career makes me feel like everything was so backwards in my head. And my last episode I shared was all about graduation scaries. And that episode, if you listen, you can tell there's like this like roller coaster of emotions I'm going through because this time is so fucking confusing because you're about to transition and figure out what the fuck you're doing with at least the next couple months of your life because you're graduating from 4 years of school, you're graduating from potentially school forever. And I have really realized that I kept trying to plan my life while I was in my last year of my bachelor's degree of psychology, and I can't because what I want right now kind of has shifted a lot since what I wanted in September and even what I was talking about a week ago and this morning. And like, I feel like I need to not base my decisions off of a mood because sometimes I can be like, oh my God, I'm so annoyed with my parents. I need to move out. But it's like, there's ways to cope with that. And moving out isn't going to solve all your problems. Your problems go with you. And yes, it might not be the problem of seeing your parents every day, but it might be the problem of like, you don't have a fucking support system anymore. And everybody's problems are different, but we all have similar themes. We really do. There's pros and cons to not having a commute. I think a commute can actually be very beneficial because it can help you wind down from the day, whether that be on the subway or driving. When you're driving, you also have the option, or walking or whatever, you have the option to, check in with people that maybe you don't really feel like calling when you get home and finally have some downtime and time to yourself. Like you can catch up with friends on the phone or call your family and do a little check-in when you're either on your way to work or on your way home from work. Obviously, you can't do that if you're on the subway, but a commute provides this transition period between who you are at work and who you are when you're winding down and ready to be home. And so they're not all bad. And when we get obsessed with never having a commute, maybe working from home or working really close by, we can get trapped in this like scarcity mindset of, I need to be useful every minute of every day. I need to be working or be productive every minute of every day, or I need to make sure every hour of every day is used to my benefit, which is like, listen, we live in hustle culture that tells us we need to be working hard all the time. And if we're not working hard all the time, we're not useful human beings. But at the end of the day, it's scientifically proven. And in the book, I read the book Burnout by the Nagoski sisters, as well as The Laziness Lie. Do I have it behind me? The Laziness Lie. I don't know the author right off the top of my head, but I did a whole episode about the laziness lie. And it's scientifically proven that our brain needs just like off time. And like that's why sometimes we just are dying to like lay in bed and just scroll on our phone. Because when we do that, we have this time where we don't have to think about what's next. We don't have to hyper focus on what we're doing. We don't have to overanalyze things. There's such thing as decision fatigue when we get tired because we make so many decisions in a day. So we need to remember that commuting isn't all bad. Commuting gives you an opportunity to wind down from the day. It gives you a chance to turn your brain off. Maybe listen to a podcast you've been wanting to listen all the time. Maybe you're listening to this podcast on your commute, which I love. Let me know if that's what you're doing. Human pod on Instagram, DM me, because I love that. And commutes also give you a time to read. Like my favorite subway rides was when I got so into a book and the next thing you know, I looked up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm at my station. Like 40 minutes just went by. That's insane. So it just shows that we're just so pressured sometimes, and it's so normalized to just complain all the time and just like think about things in such a negative light and be like, oh my God, my commute is such a waste of time. When in reality, if you're going somewhere that you're really excited about, if you're going to work at a place where you're really fulfilled, or you're going to school at a place where you're excited to be in this learning environment, the commute can be worth it. And on top of that, if you are living somewhere that makes sense for you right now, whether that be your dream location and you'd prefer to commute into the city, or let's say commute out of the city, maybe you'd rather live in the city and suburbs are the place where for some reason you work in the suburbs. It's just like there's a cost at sometimes to having it all, and sometimes we can't have it all, and the downfall might be a long commute, and that's worth, I think, living somewhere that makes you really happy and working somewhere that is fulfilling. For me right now, I'm going to stay in my parents' house for the next while because I can save money. I love them. I'm very, very lucky. I have a good relationship with them and I'm able to kind of do my thing and they do their thing. And so I'm not rushing to move right next to the job I'm going to have. But that I don't want that to stop me from picking somewhere awesome. Yeah, this was my little epiphany. I just wanted to ramble off on for a minute and encourage you to think about your priorities. And what really helped, I think, for me to have this epiphany was a couple things. I made a vision board this morning, which I've never done, but it was more of a process of like me sitting down and writing out my dream goals, because for a couple weeks now, I was more leaning towards a stable job and doing a master's and, doing a more stereotypical career that like the Gen X's in my life would understand. And now it's not completely shifting, but it's shifting a little bit to like, okay, but like you dream of this and like you imagine this and you're already working towards it. So why are you neglecting it now? And I also feel like I pigeonhole myself so much to where I'm like, you have to be one thing. And I made an episode about this like a couple episodes ago, literally saying you can be everything, you can try everything. Like, I don't have to just say I'm this one thing. I'm not just a podcast host. I'm not gonna be just a therapist. I'm not just a coach. It's like there's so many more things I enjoy, and there's themes to all of that. I'm like, I if I think about all the things I really deeply care about, it comes down to my values and these themes of community and connection and wellness and feeling like your best self and honoring yourself and listening to your body. And so there's a lot of different places I can go with that career-wise. And so why am I feeling like I have to just pick one thing and stick with it forever? I have an idea of where I'd like to go, but the way the universe is going to show up for me and create that is going to look really different than I could even picture. Oh, and this is why I wanted to sit and talk about this thought before I'd even fully developed it or talked about it with anybody else, is because I needed to just sit with myself and like let this flood out of my brain. Because that's the thing I do believe at my core, and it's shown up in so many ways in my life. Like, I wanted to be in a relationship for like 2 years when I was single, and I kept imagining this man who could come into my life. But once I let go and let the universe guide me, and I set the foundation, as in knowing my values, taking care of myself, prioritizing me over any potential relationship, the universe brought a freaking man into my life that I've been now dating for 2 years, and who, like, this beautiful moment happened last night where we were at this sauna outdoor event and we were laying in a hammock. We were both looking at the city, and it was beautiful. It was nighttime, and we were in our separate thoughts, and I sat with myself and I was starting to like think about my dreams and reimagine my future in a way that feels exciting for me. And I laid there and I was like, he's doing the same thing. Like, I know without a shadow of a doubt, he is thinking about his dreams. He's thinking about what he wants his life to look like. And I said that to him, and he was like, how did you know I was thinking about that? And I'm like, because I know you. And it's because before I met him, I worked really hard with my therapist and with myself to set a foundation of, this is who I am. These are my values. This is what I want in a relationship in terms of like respect and love, and like I wanted him to have his own dreams. I wanted him to have his own ambitions. I wanted it. And I didn't even imagine it ever matching that level of intensity or drive or passion of mine, but it did. And the universe brought us together because of our passions, because of my podcast, because of his music. And so we can never plan to the nitty-gritty details what it's going to look like, what our life is going to become, what our career will be, what our fucking future family will be. What we can control is ourselves and our priorities and understanding our values and making decisions that are aligned with them. Because now I'm like, shit, I'm a bit more excited about my future because I'm going to make decisions that aren't about the distance between my parents' house. The decisions are going to be based on what I really want to do and where I want to go and where I'm going to feel the most fulfilled. So thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this little mini episode, and good luck in all of your decisions. Trust your core, trust your gut. I feel like I had been really straying away from my gut and my core and my body, because your body will tell you what's right. I was way more in my head and trying to think more logically, but I really want to get in touch with my intuition. And I push you, I encourage you to push yourself to go to some sort of new event or activity or experience that you haven't gone to before, because that is when we have these perspective shifts, even if you don't feel like going. Because like now I'm like, fuck, I gotta book more events for myself where even though I don't feel like going, it helps me learn and connect with the community, which is what I love so much. Human-to-human connection is so important. That's what I talk about here. And if you enjoyed it, please subscribe. Keep in touch on Instagram and TikTok at human2human pod, and I'll be back for another episode soon. Thanks.